The Fact Finders. Storm Rescue on the Gulf. Episode 6. By Sylvester Scoforu. Welcome back to another thrilling adventure with the Fact Finders. I'm so glad you're here with us today. This is your first time joining us. You're in for an incredible story of courage, family, and heroism on the high seas. Now let's dive right into today's adventure. 2 weeks had passed since the Fact Finders had had a case to solve at Theodore Money High School in Mobile, Alabama. Transition had been exciting but exhausting for everyone. Gigi and Fifi Frontenac were spending a well-deserved Saturday afternoon on their family's yacht with their parents, enjoying the gentle rocking of the waves and the warm southern sun. Meanwhile, the other members of the Fact Finders, Billy, Bob, and Wanda, were at the county fair, probably riding the Ferris wheel and eating cotton candy, while James was visiting his sister across town. It was one of those perfect late summer days when everything felt right with the world. The Frontenac family had taken their yacht out onto Mobile Bay, and the conditions couldn't have been better. The sky stretched above them in an endless expanse of brilliant blue, with only a few wispy clouds drifting lazily overhead. The water sparkled like a field of diamonds, and a gentle breeze filled the sails just enough to keep them moving at a pleasant pace. Gigi leaned against the railing, her dark hair whipping behind her in the wind, while Fifi sat nearby with a book in her lap, though she'd long since stopped reading to enjoy the beauty of the day simply. Mr. Frontenac stood at the helm, one hand on the wheel, looking every bit the experienced sailor he was. He gazed out toward the south, where the bay opened up into the vast Gulf. "What do you say we head out to the Gulf?" he suggested, his voice carrying that tone of adventure that the twins knew so well. "The conditions are perfect, and we could use a real sail." Mrs. Isabel Frontenac looked up from where she'd been organizing the cabin below. She emerged onto the deck, shading her eyes against the sun, and cast a worried glance toward the horizon. "I don't know, dear," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "You know how quickly storms can develop out on the Gulf. The bay is one thing, but open water." She trailed off, remembering stories of boats caught unprepared by the Gulf's notorious sudden weather changes. "Mom, it's gorgeous out here," Gigi chimed in, always ready for adventure. "Look at that sky. There's not a storm cloud anywhere." Mr. Frontenac smiled reassuringly at his wife. "We'll keep a close eye on the weather, Isabel. I promise. At the first sign of anything concerning, we'll turn right back." Mrs. Frontenac sighed, but she trusted her husband's judgment. He'd been sailing these waters for 20 years. "All right," she agreed. "But we stay alert." And so the yacht turned southward, cutting through the calm waters as the bay gradually widened and deepened into the Gulf. For the next hour, it was pure bliss. Twins took turns at the helm under their father's watchful eye, and Mrs. Frontenac relaxed enough actually to enjoy the journey. The world seemed peaceful, safe, and utterly predictable. But the Gulf is never predictable for long. It started as a dark smudge on the northeastern horizon, barely noticeable at first. Mr. Frontenac spotted it through his binoculars and frowned. Within minutes, that smudge had grown into a towering wall of black clouds, shot through with veins of lightning. The storm appeared to have come out of nowhere, and it was moving with frightening speed. "Everyone, look!" Fifi called out, pointing toward the storm. The family watched in awe as the massive weather system churned across the water, but something seemed odd about it. The storm was moving away from them, heading northeast, back toward the coast. Where they stood, the water remained calm, almost eerily so. Mr. Frontenac made a quick decision. "We're heading south, away from that system," he announced, adjusting their course. The yacht responded smoothly, and soon they were putting distance between themselves and the retreating storm. That's when the radio crackled to life. "Mayday, mayday, mayday." A man's voice burst through the speaker, desperate and strained. "This is Miss Lucy and out of Mobile, Alabama. We're caught in the storm. The engine's dead. We're taking on water fast. Our position is..." Static consumed the transmission for a moment, then the voice returned, rattling off coordinates. "We need immediate assistance. We're going down." The family froze, staring at the radio. Gigi felt her heart hammering in her chest. The Coast Guard responded immediately, their calm, professional voice a stark contrast to the panicked fishermen. "Miss Lucy Ann, this is Coast Guard Station Mobile. We copied your mayday. Help is on the way. What is your current status?" They waited. The radio hissed with static. No response came. "Miss Lucy Ann, please respond," the Coast Guard repeated. "Miss Lucy Ann, do you copy?" Nothing but silence. Mr. Frontenac's jaw set in a hard line. His hands moved to the wheel, and suddenly the yacht was turning, swinging around in a wide arc. The bow pointed directly toward the storm. "Dad, what are you doing?" Fifi asked, though she already knew the answer. "We're the closest vessel," he said simply. "Those men don't have time to wait for the Coast Guard to get there from Mobile." Mrs. Frontenac's face had gone pale, but she stood up straighter. "Then we'd better prepare," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "Tell us what to do." Mr. Frontenac's eyes swept over his family with pride. "Sibel, you're on the radio. Keep the Coast Guard updated on our position and status. Gigi, I need you to secure everything below deck, and I mean everything. Anything that can move will move. Fifi, you're with me. You're going to help me manage in the wheelhouse." Everyone moved at once, each person focused on their task. Gigi disappeared below, and the sounds of cabinets being latched and equipment being tied down echoed up through the companionway. Fifi worked alongside her father, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. Mrs. Frontenac's voice was calm and clear as she spoke into the radio. "Coast Guard Station Mobile, this is the yacht Serendipity. We are proceeding to the last known position of Miss Lucy and to render assistance." As they drew closer to the storm, the change was dramatic. Calm waters gave way to increasingly rough seas. The wind picked up, first as a steady blow, then as powerful gusts that made the rigging sing and the yacht heel over. The sky darkened as if someone had drawn a curtain across the sun. Then they entered the storm itself. The wind hit them like a physical blow. Waves that had been 3 feet tall suddenly towered to 10, then 15 feet. The yacht climbed each massive swell, hung suspended at the crest for a heart-stopping moment, then plunged down the other side into a trough that felt like falling off a cliff. Spray flew everywhere, soaking everyone on deck within seconds. The rain came next, not falling but driving horizontally, stinging any exposed skin like needles. Mr. Frontenac fought the wheel, his muscles straining as he tried to keep the yacht pointed into the waves. "Fifi, check the bilge pump," he shouted over the roar of wind and water. Fifi made her way carefully across the pitching deck and peered below. "It's running, but we're taking on water through the forward hatch," she called back. "Gigi," Mr. Frontenac's voice boomed. "Forward hatch." Gigi emerged from below, saw the problem immediately, and began working her way forward. The yacht pitched violently, and she had to grab the safety line to keep from being thrown overboard. Water sloshed across the deck, trying to sweep her feet out from under her. She reached the hatch and threw her weight against it, forcing it closed against the pressure of the wind and water. Her fingers fumbled with the latches, numb from the cold and wet, but finally she managed to secure them. An exceptionally massive wave crashed over the bow, and Gigi held on for dear life as thousands of gallons of water swept over her. For a terrifying moment, she couldn't breathe, couldn't see, could only hold on and pray. Then the water drained away and she gasped for air. "Gigi!" Fifi screamed, seeing her sister clinging to the forward rail. "I'm okay," Gigi shouted back, though her voice shook. She made her way back to the wheelhouse. The yacht shuddered as something below made a terrible grinding sound. "The rudder's damaged," Mr. Frontenac called out. "We're losing steering." Without hesitation, both twins moved to help their father. Gigi grabbed one side of the wheel while Fifi took the other, and together the three of them fought to keep the yacht on course. Mrs. Frontenac continued her steady communication with the Coast Guard, her voice never wavering even as the yacht was tossed like a toy in a bathtub. Mr. Frontenac's arms burned with effort as he wrestled with the damaged steering system. Every wave tried to push them broadside, which would be catastrophic. If they turned sideways to these seas, they'd capsize in seconds. He could feel the yacht responding sluggishly, the damaged rudder making every correction twice as hard as it should be. "There!" Fifi suddenly shouted, pointing ahead through the sheets of rain. Through the chaos of wind and water, they could make out the Miss Lucienne. The shrimp boat was listing heavily to one side, its nets tangled and dragging it down. Even as they watched, another wave crashed over its deck. On board the Miss Lucienne, Captain Ray Thibodeau and his deckhand Marcus Chen were fighting their own desperate battle. Ray had been fishing these waters for 30 years, but he'd never seen a storm come up this fast. One minute they'd been hauling in their nets, the next they were fighting for their lives. "The pump's not keeping up," Marcus shouted, his young face streaked with rain and fear. He was only 23, and this was supposed to be an easy day trip. Ray made the hardest decision of his life. "Put on your life jacket," he ordered. "We're abandoning ship." "But Captain, now Marcus." "That's an order." With shaking hands, they strapped on their life jackets. Miss Lucienne groaned beneath them, settling lower in the water with each passing second. Ray took one last look at his boat, the vessel that had supported his family for 3 decades, and felt his heart break. "Jump!" he yelled, and together they leaped into the churning Gulf waters. Miss Lucienne gave one final shudder, her bow rising as the stern filled with water. Then, with a sound like a sigh, she slipped beneath the waves and was gone. Back on the Serendipity, the Frontenac family had witnessed the shrimp boat's final moments. "We lost visual on the vessel," Mrs. Frontenac reported on the radio. "It's gone under. We're searching for survivors. Gigi, Fifi, get to the bow," Mr. Frontenac commanded. "You've got the best eyes. Find them." The twins didn't hesitate despite the danger. They clipped their safety harnesses to the jacklines and made their way forward, scanning the violent seas for any sign of life. The rain made it nearly impossible to see more than a few yards in front of me. Waves rose and fell, each one potentially hiding or revealing the men they were searching for. "There!" Gigi screamed, pointing to starboard. "I see something orange." Fifi squinted through the rain and saw it too, a flash of orange that could only be a life jacket. Dad, 2 o'clock, about 50 yards. Mr. Frontenac turned the yacht, fighting the damaged rudder every inch of the way. The Serendipity responded sluggishly but steadily, closing the distance to the survivors. As they drew nearer, they could make out 2 figures in the water, clinging to each other, rising and falling with the massive swells. "We're only going to get one shot at this," Mr. Frontenac yelled. "Gigi, Fifi, get the life rings ready. Isabel, stand by to help pull them aboard." The yacht drew alongside the survivors, and the twins threw the life rings with perfect accuracy. Captain Ray grabbed one, Marcus the other. However, getting them on board in these conditions was going to be the most challenging part. "Pull!" Gigi shouted, and all 4 members of the Frontenac family hauled on the lines. The yacht rose on a wave, lifting the survivors partially out of the water, then dropped into a trough. They pulled harder, muscles screaming with effort. Inch by inch, they brought the 2 men closer to the yacht. A wave crashed over the side, nearly washing everyone back into the sea, but they held on. Mr. Frontenac reached down and grabbed Captain Ray's arm, pulling with all his strength. Gigi and Fifi did the same with Marcus. With one final desperate heave, both men tumbled over the rail and onto the deck, coughing and gasping. "We've got them," Mrs. Frontenac shouted into the radio. 2 survivors aboard. "We're heading back to Mobile." Mr. Frontenac turned the yacht away from the storm, and slowly, painfully, they began to make their way back toward calmer waters. Twins wrapped the survivors in blankets and helped them below deck, where it was warmer and drier. Captain Ray looked up at the young girls with tears streaming down his weathered face. "You saved our lives," he said, his voice hoarse. "You and your family, you're heroes." Marcus nodded, too overcome with emotion to speak. As the Serendipity limped back toward Mobile Bay, the storm began to break up behind them. Rays of sunlight pierced through the clouds, painting the water in shades of gold and silver. The yacht was battered, her rudder damaged, and her deck a mess, but she was afloat and everyone aboard was safe. Mr. Frontenac stood at the helm, his family gathered around him. Mrs. Frontenac had overcome her fear of Gulf storms to help save 2 lives. Twins had proven themselves not just as adventurers and fact-finders, but as true heroes. And 2 fishermen who had thought they'd seen their last sunrise were heading home to their families. The Coast Guard met them at the mouth of Mobile Bay, and as the sun set over the water, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, the Frontenac family knew they'd been part of something extraordinary. They'd faced danger together, worked as a team, and made the choice to risk their own safety to save others. That's what heroes do. Thank you for listening to another adventure of the Fact Finders. Be sure to like and subscribe to SCO's Media YouTube channel and the stories of Sylvester SCO Forru.